Hello, everybody, and welcome to the True Love Talk channel. Here we want to learn about human sexuality and love based on the teachings that Pope John Paul II left in the theology of the body. I am Elisa, and today we're going to have our fifth video on the series Mulieris Dignitatem of the dignity of women. And today we're going to take on the topic of the choice of sin and the choice of death. So, if you're interested in learning about the Catholic Church's position on sexuality, love, life, and family, please subscribe to this channel and click the bell to get notifications whenever we post a new video. So, with that said, let's begin our topic. So, we are analyzing the idea of sin and so on because sin, remember, is what starts history, right? The historical man, according to Pope John Paul II, starts after we fall for sin. But falling for sin is very weird because the moment that God warned us against it, he said, "Do not take the fruit of the tree of good and evil, or else you will die." And the question is, why would anybody want to die? Why would anybody choose death, right? So, of course, it all begins. We know that the devil was there, the serpent, and the first thing he says is, "No, you will not die." That's the point. God knows that you will not die, but he also knows that you will be bigger than him. So he is actually jealous of you and he doesn't want you to be as big as you can do. So what you need to do is cut the relationship with him and leave him alone because you don't need him. Okay? What you need is all you need is yourself. And here the devil is actually very clever because what he's doing is he's taking part of what God Himself put in men, right? In telling men, yeah, this is what you're going to be. And here we can see that the devil is infecting men with the same sin that got him got him to fall, right? Which was pride. So hey, you don't need God, you're bigger than him, be bigger, right? Live as if you were bigger, and so on and so forth. And the second thing he does, and this is very smart, is that he takes what God has put in men when he created men and tells men, hey, you can have it without him, right? So we know that we were created in God's image. And the devil turns this into so you can be God, right? You can decide what nature is. You can decide the laws of the universe, the laws of nature, of yourself. You can do everything you want. You don't need that. You don't need that man, right? And this is the first part of what sin is. Sin is breaking our relationship with God. That's the first part of it. But this comes with death, as God has told us. Because let's remember from the last video when we said He is, right? And we are because He is. So He is actually our life. He's the one who is maintaining our our being, our existence, right? However, what we did when we sin is telling him, yeah, we know that we didn't give our existence to ourselves, right? You and our parents you and my parents gave me my existence, but I know I can maintain it on my own. I don't need anybody else but myself, right? And at the moment when we say, hey, it's what I want, however I want it, we break that unity, that original unity we were talking about, that comes as a consequence of original justice, right? So, first of all, being original justice, that tendency to the other, right? Namely God, right? And keeping that relationship with God, we continue to be open to the other person and understand that we are a gift to the other person, and our value comes from being a gift for others, right? But here, when we break the relationship with God, we stop thinking about loving others and serving others and giving ourselves to others, and instead what we think is, how does everybody is going to serve me, what are they going to give me? So this is when we start creating all these hierarchies to see if we can be at the top, having everybody else serve us and not having to serve anybody else. And that is the second part of what sin is, and that is denying God, right? Sin is the denial of God. And let's remember that God is love. So basically, we stop loving precisely because we don't want to love ourselves, right? So that's how we break the relationship with God. But then let's remember that the original unity comes from that original justice. So we start seeing the consequences of the break of this unity. The first level of original unity that we talked about on the last video was integrity, right? And that meant that the body, the soul, and the spirit, which are the three components of the human being, are all organized together for one another, right? They're integrated into one being. However, when we close ourselves to God and we close ourselves to the other, our elements, our components do the same within within us. So, the body, instead of thinking, how do I serve the soul and the spirit, starts thinking, hey, how can they serve me, right? And the spirit thinks the same thing, and so does the soul. And so that integration between the three elements disappears, and each of them starts pulling through to their own side, right? And that is concupiscence. That's the start of concupiscence and of this brokenness that we have. That is why we cannot choose what is good, and that is why we have bad desires, and that is why we cannot even organize our desires into one lane, right, or into one plan, because each one of our components is each pulling for themselves, right? So first of all, we lose our integrity. Second of all, we lose that unity that we had with nature and so on. And here starts that first, well, in the Bible it appears as a punishment, but if you ask me, it's more like God talking about the consequences of our actions, right? And the first consequence that he talks about, he turns to the man and says, okay, with great effort you will take your food from the ground. Well, that makes perfect sense. I mean, we are going against the laws of nature because we are going against the law of God. So, of course, nature is trying to push back and trying to avoid the deformation that we are putting it through. So, yes, of course, it is very complicated to get our food from the ground. But the second thing that happens is, as I said, we start the hierarchies, we start the hierarchies, and we try to say, hey, how do I get to the top, and how do I become served by everybody while not serving anybody? And right now, at this point of history, we have the technology to produce enough food for everybody to eat, and yet there are people starving in the world. Why? Because basically 1% of the world's population holds 90% of the world's riches. And we think, why? Well, because it's about having a lot, not about sharing, it's not about giving, right? But it's about, how do I become the bigger, the greater, the stronger, the biggest of them all, right? That is what happens. So, of course, it, when so of course, for all of those who are not in the 1% who has all those riches, we have to work a lot and very painfully to get enough to get by, to get enough to eat, right? Because we created injustice by closing ourselves and by refusing to be gifts for the other. And then the second part of the punishment, that once again I think is more like a consequence, is when man turns to the woman and said, okay, it's when God turns to the woman and says, well, to your husband, okay, and he says, your desire shall be for your husband, but he shall rule over you. And this is very clear because, as you know, women give themselves to men, and men, instead of giving themselves back and valuing that gift that they are receiving, what they say is, oh, a gift, that's great, it's mine. Now I rule over you because you gave yourself to me, right? So I have the power to do with you whatever I want. And so it starts all the violence and all the injustice and the losing of the dignity and so on. But because the woman is so willing, or because the woman wants so much to be received, when the man devalues her, she thinks, oh yeah, I indeed lost my value, and she herself doesn't think she has value. And to be accepted, she's willing, not able, everybody's able, but she's willing to say or to take away from herself all her value, or to annihilate herself just to be accepted, right? It, funny enough, it's like if the woman never lost that desire to be a gift for the other person, but she has a man, her husband is not willing to be a gift for her. So of course she receives nothing, and she's not valued as the gift that she is. And so sometimes women react by saying, hey, then why do I have to give anything to this guy, right? So what I'm going to do is, I am worthless as a woman. So the temptation is to become masculine, to be able to live on our own. And now I am valuable. And no, now I don't need you. And no, I do not want to have a family with you. And I don't want to have a marriage with you, right? I don't want to have this common life with you because you're worthless, because you are worthless. You are worthless too. You're saying that I am worthless, but actually you're the one who is worthless, right? And this is how the relationship between men and women starts breaking off, and this is the start of all the violence. And let's be clear about something. The relationship between men and women is one of the relationships in which we can see the violence. But honestly, it happens between races and between nationalities, even in a group of people with the same, where all of them have the same sex, the same nationality, and the same race. There is always that idea of, how do I become the bigger dog, the one, the alpha male or the alpha dog, to be the one that is served instead of being the one who needs to serve and to give anything, right? Okay, so this is the consequence of sin. So this is our topic for today. I'm very glad to see that you decided to stay until the end of the video. If you have any question or any comment, please write it in the comment section below. I'll try to answer it as soon as possible. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you know of anybody who would gain something from seeing this video, please share this video. So I'm very glad that you're here. Have a nice day. Lots of blessings for everybody. Bye.